Hello. Hi. Okay, let me just wait for a few more seconds, just in case there are others who will join. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me. So today we're taking a break from all the painting and we'll do some drawing. Okay, so I did another drawing before of how to draw the eye. So you can also check that out. And plus we have other articles as well, more on how to draw the face facing forward and also from angles. So, but today we're focusing more on a specific feature, which is the nose. Okay, so this, usually each facial feature is a challenge. That's why I always recommend that once you start to try to draw the face as a whole, it's also good to focus on drawing each feature. That way you can actually observe it without having the pressure of doing everything. So just the nose and just really how a nose looks like, generally speaking, because of course across different people it will look different. The size, the height, everything, so many variations. But the good thing is there we have some sort of guidelines that we can use to start off. So it's going to help us just as a starting point, and then we work from there. Okay, so now I'm going to flip down the camera so it will be my desk, and I'll start flipping around. Okay, so stay with me. Okay, let me just flip this around as usual. Okay, there you go. And let me move it a bit. Okay, so as you can see from the event that I shared earlier, this is our reference. Okay, so I picked several noses so that that we can easily visualize, so that you can see how we're gonna simplify the nose. Okay, so this is just the reference, okay, without the drawing. Okay, so let's start here, and then we'll use what we learned from here on the sketchpad after. Okay, so just to help you visualize with the photo now. Okay, let me just open this in a different app. Okay, one moment. Okay, so here we go. All right, so of course, as usual, the easiest is the facing forward, right? But good thing about the nose is the side view is also pretty easy. So that's the one good thing about drawing noses. Okay, so we'll start with, okay, we'll find, I like to draw the circle here for the tip of the nose. So this will vary. Okay, some people have smaller tips, or some have wider, so it doesn't even have to be a circle. Sometimes it can also be more oval this way, or more oval this way. Okay, so depending on the shape of the nose, you can totally adjust it every which way. But let's just start with the basic, which is this circle. Okay, and then, so the easiest is this, and then you draw two smaller circles slightly overlapping the bigger one, and also a bit higher. So if the tip of this is here, these two on both sides are higher. Okay, and already you have a basic guideline, and then you also do the bridge. Again, this shape also will differ if you refine it later on further, but for the basic, just one that's tapering a bit upwards. Okay, so this is one of the really very simple ways, and then from there on you can already start to draw the shape of your nose. So I usually start with how the tip looks like, and the nostril, and then you already start to shape around the nose. These circles will help you maintain the curves, so that you don't draw too on the sides like too hard. Okay, so usually the sides of your nose will be softly curved. So having the circles, smaller circles here on both sides will really help you maintain, will guide you with the curve. And already you have your nose shape, and then you later on it will be refined with shading. Okay, so now let's go back to the other one, the more detailed one. Okay, so with this one, okay, you start here at the top of the bridge of your nose. Okay, so if you move this, the eyes are here on both sides. Okay, so if you feel your nose, okay, if you feel your nose, the dip right here, this is where you start your line, and then you draw the bridge of your nose. Okay, let's use a different color. Okay, you start with the line there at the dip at the bridge of your nose, and then you draw it downward, tracing the general shape of the bridge down here towards the middle of the nostrils. Okay, right here. Then you draw the, you connect the two. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then you want to, okay, from the dip going upwards, it's gonna go wider. Okay, so this is where it bottles. It goes smaller and then becomes wide, and then on top as well, from small it also becomes wider to connect to the eyebrows. Okay, and for the sides, okay, we're just doing planes. So we're simplifying the shape of the nose by making it into shapes, into planes. So you can see this plane on top is where the bridge of the nose is, here on the sides. And from here, you make a chopped off triangle. Sorry, I don't know the proper terms, but let's say a chopped off triangle, and chop it off where the tip ends, where the tip of the nose ends. So this is a full face forward nose. Okay, so there's this is the basic up facing front nose. And then from here it's straight, then we extend it outwards, dipping. Okay, this is going down slightly. So we connect all, and then we connect it here. And now you have your simplified nose. So you reduced it into planes. This will also help you with shading later on. So for example, the source of light is here. So this part will be lighter. So this will be lighter. And then this part will be shadowed. So it also helps you simplify the shading later on when you have all your source of light from different areas, from one area, and things like that. Okay, so now let's go to the side of the nose. If you have any questions, just ask away if something's not clear. Okay, so here on the right side, okay, so we start with the circle here at the tip. Okay, so once you have that, but don't forget to identify the line of the face. Okay, so you have to draw this straight line, because that's going to help you picture where all the features are. Now if the head is tilted like this, then you have to also change up your line, sorry. So let's say her mouth is somewhere here, so her head is slightly tilted, so we should also align our lines like so. Okay, so once you have that, once you have your line, then it's much easier. Okay, so let's make this clearer. Okay, and then you add your first circle for the tip, and then your smaller circle for the nostril area, and then that's it. You start shaping the nose. So again, depending on what the shape of the nose is, let's say the bridge dips further. Some noses have bridges that really dip before going up and straight, or some have noses that have like a bump, or some have noses that are more like this. So you will adjust the shape depending on the nose that you want to draw. Okay, so that's it now. Let's go to drawing it actually on the paper. Okay, so let's start with just a sketchbook. So you can practice this. You can draw several noses in your sketchbook. You can fill this whole spread, or you can just do it on one page. So try to draw as many as you can, so that it's always, you know, practicing. So you practice and practice until you get it right. Okay, so I'm zooming in so that you can see it better. Okay, and then let me just open my reference while I do this. Okay, so again, let's start with the basic shape. Okay, so when you're sketching, use your HB or B pencil, the lighter pencil, so that it will be easier to erase later on, because remember, we're starting with guidelines, so you want to be able to erase it. Okay, so let's start with the bridge of the nose, okay, at the top. So just for practice, you don't have to have copy the nose that you're copying this from exactly, but at least to make it to make it look like it's a nose at the end. Okay, and then do the shape. This will vary depending on the shape of the nose. So it can be longer, it can be shorter. Okay, this can be wider depending on the nose that you're drawing. So going down a bit. And then here, this is a straight line. We extend it outwards and going down ever so slightly. Again, from a straight line, extend outwards slightly. And of course, since this is face forward, you can use a ruler to check if you're doing the same measurements here, so that your nostrils will be even after, not one bigger than the other. Okay, so you can measure using your pencil like so, and measure to make sure they're the same, or you can use a ruler. Okay, and then again connect from here to below. So I'm using an HB pencil so that I can easily erase this later on. And then from here you connect it to the tip and to the tip. Okay, so now you have this basic shape of planes. So if you're not sure, is it maybe slightly askew, things like that, I think mine is ever so slightly, so let me fix that. Okay, but you can also check using a ruler. Just put your ruler here, see-through ruler, and if it has this line, then you can put it at the middle and see if what you see on the other side is also what you see on the opposite side. That way you can see if they're symmetrical. Okay, so now once you have that, again, remember this is the tip. You can lighten your guidelines if you want now, or you can already try to pinpoint the areas of the nose. So here is the tip, then the nostril here, and also the other side. So try to do the same shape that you're doing, the same shaped nostril, so that it doesn't look weird at the end. Okay, so now you have that. Okay, and then you can start erasing this line here. Okay, and then you can already create the curve. So take your time when you do this. Of course, right now I'm really hurrying it, but normally I would really take my time and try to get the general sketch. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll use it. I'll zoom it in more, and then let me just, okay, how about now? Okay. All right. Let me just color this in, and then we can just do this again later. Okay, so can you see it now? Okay, so here, okay, the nostril. So when I color when I shade the nostril, I line the top and then I shade the bottom. Okay, so this is what I do. I line like so, and then shade under. Because this one, you actually want the line to be visible and crisp. This is the one area of the nose where I actually use a line, but otherwise I wouldn't do that in some areas, because when you start doing hard lines, it also makes it look harsh unless you really see an actual line. So what I do is I do the line, yes, and then I shade under. So because the shadows will become softer as it leaves the circle of the nostril, so you will be able to fade it. If you do it like this, then you already have this harsh line, and then even when you shade it, it's much more difficult to soften the edges later on, rather than if you do this and then shade. So that you have more control this way. Okay, so if you look at the nose, for example, okay, yes, it's dark here, and yes, you can line it, but you see it gets softer as it goes down. Okay, so that's what we want to achieve. So do it this way. All right, so next, so once I have this nostril, okay, I can shade it, and again, soften it. Okay, and also at the other side. Okay, so when you do shading, where you really take your time. Sometimes I take an hour just to really finish something off, because what I do is I shade in layers. Okay, so if you shade in layers, it gives you more control. So if you shade like this, okay, so you have your light line, you have your light shading. Now you feel like it should be darker, so you just layer on it again. Okay, and then you just build on it. But if you shade it too dark, and then oops, it's too dark, it's gonna be harder to correct that. Sometimes it marks the paper already, and it leaves a mark, or it's hard to correct it. Okay, so do it in layers. Okay, that way you can really control the amount of shading that you want to do, and you build towards the shade that you want. Okay, so just in layers, always. It's going to take more time, but it will look so much better. Okay, so if you're shading, you can start with a 2B pencil. So this is 6B. So the thing with pencils is those labeled with F, those are hard pencils, so they leave lighter marks. So they're really great for sketching or for shading in those really light parts. But if you want to go to shade darker, then you need pencils on the B range. So HB is what I use for my sketching, HB or B. And then I do 2B, 4B, 6B for shading the darker areas. So the higher the number, the softer it is. It means it will leave marks much more easily with just a little pressure. So maybe you can start with 2B to 2B, and then you can try also 4B, so that it's much easier to control. So in my case, I prefer to use 6B, and I just control my pressure. Okay, so now I have my nostrils. Okay, so those are really the parts that have the hard line right here at the top, and then everything else is really shading. Okay, so to create the outline tip of the nose, I shade that. Okay, so no line, but shading to create that outline. So that's what you'll do. You'll get a soft tip, which is what you want, because of course, you know, the nose, it's not a hard surface, it's not teeth, it's not bones, so you want a soft effect. Okay, so now that you have this, I'm gonna lighten. You can roll your kneaded eraser to lighten the marks. Okay, or you can dab at it softly like this. So that's what I like about the kneaded eraser, is because you can shape it into any shape you need, and you will have much more control over the erasures that you need to make. Okay, so in my case, I'm erasing the guidelines, not completely, but making them so light that later on they won't affect my final work. Okay, so now that you have that, you can now add more details to the sides of the nostrils here, to the sides of the nose. So this nose has light coming from here up front, so it will be balanced all around. So both sides have the same shading because the light is from up front. Okay, and then this is where you start adding shading to shape the nose. So depending on the shape of the bridge, is it a narrow bridge, is it a wider bridge, then you will do your shading according to the bridge shape. Okay, so I'm just going to do this roughly so that we don't take so much time, but you can definitely take your time when you do this. Okay, so let me do a little bit of hatching. So there are many ways that you can shade it. Okay, so if you want your shading to be really smooth, then start with using smooth paper. So that's why I used a sketch pad, the sketch pad, because it has a really smooth surface. So it's perfect for doing all these shading if you want it to be really smooth and, you know, like skin. Okay, so you can do it like this. Then if you want to soften it further, then you can use blending tools. So you have, there are blending stumps, for example, that you can use to do the blending, and they come in various sizes. So let's say I use this and I just use it to blend like so. Okay, so it shortens the time where you don't have to blend it all using your pencil. But if you want to use your pencil, then you can of course use it. What I do is I blend it, and then I also do some more on the top, because personally I prefer to actually see some pencil marks. But if you want it to be really smooth, then you can use a blending stump, or you can use a tissue paper. You just wrap it around your finger and you use that to smudge. But try to move around and try to use clean parts as you move along, so that you don't use the really smudged part everywhere and dirty everything. Okay, and then once you have this down, try to soften it towards the center where the highlight is. Okay, so you're trying to create the shape here, remember? So try to soften it. So here I'm just leaving the tip with a sort of highlight. So for example, some parts you feel like, oh, I covered it too much and I want to add highlight, then you can just shape your kneaded eraser into a tip and then lift that area off, and then you will have a highlight. Okay, so take your time when you do this. So this is one of the parts where I really do a lot of layering, much layering, just so I can get the shape right, the shading right. And another thing that you can use for blending as well is a brush. So you can also use a brush to do the blending. Try to use a soft-haired brush. Okay, synthetics probably, or you can even use, if you have those small eye makeup brushes, you can also use that to do the shading. So many ways, so many different stuff that you already have at home that you can use to aid you in your shading. Okay, so here you will have some shadow as well. Again, no actual hard lines unless you really see one, which is here at the top of the nostril. Okay, and then the edges, soften it. Try to ease into the white parts. Okay, nothing so okay, and then once you're done, then you can now even erase further the guidelines so that it will start to look like an actual nose. Okay, so now just a shape going towards the eyebrows. Okay, so there you have a frontal nose. Okay, of course you can even deepen the shadows. You can even add more shading and other things. Okay, but let's not do that for all the time. Okay, so this is how you do the frontal, and you can even soften the edge if you feel like it's too harsh. Okay, you can just use the tip of your kneaded eraser and just do little corrections like that and just go over the parts again. Okay, so I really recommend that you get yourself a kneaded eraser. Okay, so next let's do a nose from the side. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, okay, what is the stain? Let's start with the line. Okay, and then the tip, and then the other smaller one. So the bigger one is for the tip of your nose, and then the smaller one is for the sides of the nose. And again, depending on the dip of the bridge, that's up to you, that's up to the nose that you're going to be working on. So do the shape of your bridge, curve here. Okay, and then go downwards, go towards this line that you started. Okay, and then from here you do this like elongated number 6 shape, like that. Okay, and again, like I said earlier, just the top part, and then below you shade. So if you feel like you made it too long, oops, just erase it a bit. And then we have this circle to guide you, so you just connect this to the tip of your nostril right here and do the shape. Okay, so again, start erasing the guidelines that you no longer need because you've already drawn around them. As you can see, the side was very easy. And you have your nose side view. Of course, this will vary depending on the nose. Some noses will have the circle here and then the smaller circle lower, depending on the shape of the nose. So this one is more level. Let's say this one is lower. That also happens. And again, the long 6. And it's also going downwards a bit. Okay, now a shade. So I can really advise, just while you're doing your guidelines, while you're doing your pre-sketches, sketch lightly so that you can easily erase it. You can easily make changes and make corrections and keep working, because of course you want to be able to really work on your guidelines, on your pre-sketches, so that before you make any shadings and do all the hard work, you have everything correct. Okay, and then the shape. So this is more of a downward shape. So depending on the nose, everything can change. Okay, so depending on the shape, depending on the height, so depending on the dip here, or is it more just like that height, all of this will vary. You can change this around. This is just your basic guidelines, so it will just help you place. So take a look at the nose that you're copying, try to find where the tip is, then the edge of the nose, is it level, is it a bit higher, is it lower? So depending on the shape of the nose, it will vary. So it will just take you to have good observation skills, or train yourself to observe better. Okay, so here are the basic two noses that you can do, that you can start off with. Okay, so if you already have the shape of your nostril, then depending on where the light is. Okay, so let's say the light is here. Okay, so this part will be lighter, and then this part will have shadow. This as well here at the edge, of course the nostril, and then here under. So those areas where it's covered by here, it's because it's under, the light is here, it will be shadowed. Here, of course, there's the hole there, so it's also shadowed. Here, this is to the side, so this will be shadowed, and this too. Okay, so that's how you know how to add your shading, depending on where your source of light is. So you first have to determine where your source of light is, then you can add your shading. Okay, so just really shape the nostril according to the shape. Some nostrils will have a more curvy, like number 6, like this. Okay, some will have bigger shapes, depending on the shape again. So it will really vary, but the most basic that you'll try to remember is the line, then your circle, big circle, then your smaller circle, then just do the shape and connect them. Okay, all right, so any questions, anything you want clarification on? Yes, no? Let me know if there's anything you want me to show further, or okay, so let's take this nice example of lighting. Okay, so as you can see, the light is somewhere here from this angle, and here you will have your highlight, midtones, and then you start seeing more shadow. So since the light is it's higher at this angle, this will be much more shadowed, as well as down here. So all of this shading thing you will learn later on. So I suggest you start with maybe copying a friend's nose or looking at photos from copyright pictures and try to use them as your reference, and just keep practicing. Okay, so keep practicing your noses. Okay, so let's try to remember the front nose if you can. Okay, so if you can remember, again, the simplest that you can do is you do the bridge, then the tip of the nose, then the two smaller circles on the side. Okay, so again, this is slightly higher, and everything can be changed. So if it's like this, you can start shaping your nose. So I'm just gonna draw dark so you can see it. But of course, normally you should draw lighter. Okay, so here you've got the shape of your nose. So let's say, let's try to do a different nose. Now let's do a longer kind of nose. So let's do an oval right here. Okay, so in this case, these are the nostrils, and this will be a longer tip. So another shape of the nose. Okay, so let's say it's a wider nose like this. So let's do okay, so let's do a flatter nose. I mean, like this. And okay, so let's do the nostrils. All right, so as you can see, already we have 3 different noses with 3 different shapes. So let's say you have a really even narrower nose, so you can also try to do that. Okay, let's say it's more with a pointy tip. All right, so these guidelines will really help you, just by basically changing the shape of your circle into whichever much nearer shape, like maybe an oblong. It will already help you create all the different kinds of noses that you need for the frontal. All right, so you can also do that, of course, for the side view. Let's say you have a nose that has a more bulbous nose, let's say. So you create this like really bigger tip right here, just to already start you off. And then you trace that shape. And then your number 6, remember? Your long number 6. And then you trace around that. And then you already have a different shaped nose. Okay, so really just change around your basic guidelines, you know, move them towards whichever shape of the circle or oval it's much closer to, and it will help you out already. Okay, so I didn't do all the full shading. Okay, so this is just the basic how-to, but I hope you understood it. So I won't take all your time like the eyes that I did, that I showed everything. So I hope this was enough. Let me know if you have any questions, even if it's, you know, post live. If you tried it out and you want to ask me about something about it, I'm always there. I'll get back to you with suggestions on how you can improve. And so I hope you try this, and I hope you share your work, and I hope you learned something from me. Okay, so thank you for joining me as always, and I'll see you next time. Bye.